Tensura What If? Silver Timeline by CBCTEBAS Chapter 22 Greek Pantheon 1. As Argent and Velgrind passed to the gate, they were met with trees. They were in a forest. They scanned their surroundings for any living beings. Getting into contact with the world's inhabitants has always been a part of the expedition of New Worlds. Judging if it is better to interact with them like the rock universe or just let them be on their own like the lizard monster universe. They then sensed thousands upon thousands of beings, tens of kilometers away from where they were. Say Argent, aren't they fighting? Velgrind said as she used her universal perception. It seems so, a lot of them are dying after all. Let's go and watch. We'll hide for now. Some of them seems to be stronger than Siren and Enki. Argent ran. The two ran for less than half an hour and they reached their destination. There they saw different races fighting each other. Two groups of people clashing into each other. A variety of races coming together. Each races are all in attendance on both sides, making it not a battle of race. Different types of spirit-like beings lingered in the battlefield. From what can be asses, they each have different elements. From wind, water, forest, fire. Using their gifts from the elements as weapons to defeat each other. From attacks like water, fire, and wind being thrown in the battlefield. They weren't the only participants in the war. Goat-like men are also within their ranks. They have legs of goats, body and face of a person with horns. Now that's a new race. Velgrind couldn't help but mutter. You can say that again. I'll get a sample for Twilight once this is all over, Argent replied. The goat men are using common weapons like swords and shield to combat the other side, in a similar way. Armed men with swords in their sheath, spears and shield in their hands. All of them could be seen thrusting their spears into their enemies and others slashing with their swords. Others uses shields to block the attacks coming onto them. Many types of attacks may come your way. From swords, spears, and arrows to fire and water attacks from the spirits. Look up there. Argent pointed upwards, where light and darkness seems to fight for dominance. Light shows its brilliance like the sun was present in the battlefield, for it will then be covered by darkness. Do you see them, Argent? Velgrind asked. Yeah, they seem strong, maybe class 6 inches. The one who has been using light then casted something that shoots rays of sunlight to all parts of the battlefield. The attacks cause a lot of damage to the water type of spirits below, and will leave the fighters below with burnt skin if not burned alive. This was Hyperion, Titan god of light, and the one who blocked his rays of sunlight and protected those below was Thanatos, god of death, the son of Nyx, goddess of night. Their clash in the sky continues on, using both their concepts and weapons at their disposal to defeat the other. Another fight that is happening in the sky is a battle between a man and a woman. Koios, the Titan god of intelligence and farsight. He was one of the wisest in the battlefield and also one of the reason as to why they have survived this war for a long time. The person that he is currently fighting in the sky is one of the rivers in the underworld, Styx. The two kept their clash in the sky away from the ground. Unlike Hyperion and Thanatos' battle, theirs were more on skills in how they handle the weapon in their hands. From the participants of this war, many would realize that it is the war between the Olympians and the Titans, the battle called Titanomachy. The battle on the ground wasn't in any way less impressive. Minor gods and other beings fought one of another. Abilities thrown from here or there. Not to mention the monsters brought by the Titans. The one they called the monsters of Kronos. These monsters rushed to the Olympian army's massacres could be seen for every step they take. Bodies flying in the air, and the screams of the beings that were unfortunate enough to face them. The battle was separated into 3 groups, the right, left and middle. Left side, from the left flank of the Olympians were Hades and Kratos. Hades was leading his army against the Titan god of dusk Astraeus, who was leading the Titan army's right flank. Olympians left equals Titans right. Meanwhile Kratos was fighting Aegeon, the Titan god of storm of the Aegean Sea. The two threw attacks at each other, until Aegeon lost his footing and was grabbed by Kratos in his neck. Kratos was choking Aegeon until he passes out. Tisk. Unfortunately for Kratos, Atlas came to attack him, forcing him to let go of Aegeon, who fell to the ground unconscious. The two men then started to fight. Hades fought with Astraeus with their spears. The two exchange thrust and swings at each other. Hades waited for the right moment to deal a major blow, and then it came. Swing, Gaia. Astraeus was wounded heavily by Hades' attack. Hades' sword was swung to the head of Astraeus. If Hades' sword were sharper, he would be dead. With his ears ringing from the sword that knocked his helmet off, he was forced to run back to his army to retreat. Crius, Titan god of constellation, came down from where he was before, using his concept of constellation to mesmerize Hades for a few seconds and then attacking him. Hades was wounded by the spear thrown by Crius. The two continue to fight each other. Because of Hades' caution, he manages to fight. Right side. From the right side of the Olympians was Poseidon. He was attacking very aggressively towards the enemy army. Along with him was Gaia, goddess of force. With how fast they were moving, their armies are barely keeping up with their onslaught. Good, just a little bit more. A man smiled as he sees Poseidon come closer. This man was Menoetius, the Titan god of violent anger and rash action. Indeed, another responded. This was one of the two other Titan gods with him. It was Pallas, god of battle and witchcraft. The plan was to lure in Poseidon and Gaia, then isolate them from their army. The plan has been long set in motion as Pallas and Perseus, the Titan god of destruction, have been pushing back the Olympian army. Soon Poseidon and Gaia realized the situation that they were in, but it was too late, as Menoetius faced Poseidon, and Pallas and Perseus confronted Gaia. Poseidon rushed to Menoetius, in which he was stabbed by the spear held by Menoetius. Then another spear was with him, cutting of Poseidon's advance altogether. Gaia was forced in a 2 versus 1 fight. All three of them uses swords and shields. Gaia could destroy the shields of her enemy, but only if she hit them. The two made sure to dodge her attacks while slashing at her. The situation was the worst for Poseidon and Gaia. In the middle flank of the Olympian was Zeus, the god of thunder. He was riding a chariot on his way to the front of his army, to where his people are being sent flying by the monsters brought by the enemy's side. His charioteers were Zeus, god of envy, and Nike, goddess of victory. Zeus landed in front of the strongest of the monsters, said to be the pet of the king of the Titans, Kronos. The monster noticed Zeus and ran towards him. Zeus, using his sword and shield, fought with the beast. He realized the hardness and thickness of the monster's skin was extremely high, looking like it received no damage at all. The fight took a few minutes until Zeus' attack eyes blinding the monster of Kronos. The beast stumbles down and writhed in pain, using his enemy's blindness. Zeus, using his sword, decapitated Iapetus, the leading titan of the entire army, went to face off against Zeus. Meanwhile, Zeus was facing Epimetheus, god of afterthought, and Nike faced Prometheus, the god of forethought. Zeus, feeling arrogant from his win against the beast, rushed towards Iapetus. Iapetus thrusters his spear forward and hit Zeus in his stomach. "A mere boy thinks he can win against me. How arrogant of you," Iapetus said to Zeus as they fought. Zeus realized his disadvantage in the fight and was starting to lose ground. His right arm holding his sword was wounded by Iapetus. He then let go of his sword and took it to his left to make a surprise attack on Iapetus. Iapetus dodged the attack and was met with dust clouds, after which he can see Zeus at the back of the chariot with Zeus, who beat Epimetheus, with Nike running and joining in as well. Iapetus grabbed his spear and aimed it at the chariot. He threw it with precision and hit Zeus in his back. It wasn't enough to finish him, but it did gravely wounded him. Nike took over for Zeus, who was driving the chariot. In a similar fashion in how the middle flank of the Olympians were retreating, both left and right were as well. The battle between Hades and Crius was not winnable since Hades was wounded. Luckily for him, he was saved by Kratos, who ran away from Atlas once he realizes the difference of strength between them. The battle with Poseidon ended in a similar way, with the realization of being cornered into enemy territory. Poseidon prioritizes the safety of them both. He went to Gaia, who was covered in wounds by fighting both Pallas and Perseus. He grabbed her and retreated back to their lines. The others tried to stop them from retreating but were stopped by the sacrifices of the people in Poseidon's army, shielding them both. This was a defeat for the Olympians. However, instead of rushing in and killing them all, the Titans didn't pursue any further, for if they follow, the Gigantes that guards Mount Olympus may rain rocks at them like before, when they tried to siege their mountain. Looks like one of the armies is retreating, Velgrind muttered. Looks like it, aside from the left side. The others didn't have much coordination anyway, replied Argent. That's true, the right side lost a lot of men. More so than both the middle and left combined. In fact, the left is the only one that retreated with any type of coordination. Velgrind agreed. So what now? Personally, I don't want to interfere yet. It might affect the chances of winning on both sides. Argent shrugged his shoulders. If we do interact with them, we'll have to keep our actions into a minimum. Making sure to not to do anything that can leave a major effect. Basically, you want to talk with them. Velgrind realizes that Argent may say that he won't interfere. What he is really saying is he should not interfere, but he will. Yup. Sigh. Hey now, I don't plan on talking with those two groups yet. I'm planning on talking to third parties, Argent defended. Third parties? Asked Velgrind. Argent pointed in the ground. Try sensing her. Velgrind used her senses to the ground. Wow, a whole spurt king inhabiting a planet. That's pretty amazing, although she seems too weak for a spirit king. Velgrind was surprised by what she found out. Probably because she inhabited a planet or because she had descendants that she gave birth to. I could sense her powers from a few of the fighters earlier. Argent said his hypotheses. The two went away from the previous battlefield. They went to one of the mountains that was nearby. They made sure that there is no one in the vicinity. Alright, I know you can hear me. I know you sensed us when we arrived earlier. Argent spoke to the side of the mountain. The mountain started to morph in ways to form a body of a woman. It is nice to meet you. My name is Gaia, the goddess and personification of Earth. Gaia said with respect to the two. Do you know who we are? Asked Argent. He found her attitude for their first interaction to be strange. That this should be the first time that they met. I do not know you exactly, but I do know where you came from. Gaia replied. Besides, the lady over there gives a familiar feeling to the one that placed me here. You remember when you were brought here? Asked Argent, surprised. Veldanava never physically placed them to each universe. He just transport them via magic and letting them run free. Due to his carelessness, a lot of these beings mutated. So I really was brought here by someone. Gaia smiled. I only have a vague recollection of someone with black hair with white specks like stars in the night sky. That would be my brother Veldanava, said Velgrind to Gaia. I see, no wonder you seem to give of a familiar feeling. It is an honor to meet someone of your stature. Honor's all mine. We have a few questions if you don't mind. Velgrind asked. Of course, I'll answer everything that you may ask. Gaia replied. And so the questioning started.